Now is Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, a Republican from New York. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
Governor Hochul last night in that interview, she also called on you and your colleagues, your Republican colleagues from the state of New York, to do something about comprehensive immigration reform, which is, I think you would agree, at the heart of this problem. Why isn't that happening?
Actually, we've done quite a bit. We've voted already to secure the border to stem the flow, to increase the number of visas. I've introduced legislation that would allow for a number of different type of visa category numbers to increase. We've also supported expanding the number of judges to hear these cases quicker, because we know that half to two-thirds of these individuals claiming asylum are denied when they get to court because they don't have legitimate asylum cases. The reality is we don't have a partner in the Senate that is willing to support any of our legislation, and they haven't done any of their own.
Well, I think one of the issues is, I mean, what you're pointing out are all parts of this, but the overall immigration system is broken. That's why when people talk about comprehensive reform, that's not happening. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
No, it hasn't happened when the Democrats controlled either. The problem is this. Our president decided to put in place executive orders that have allowed for this unsustainable flow to occur. I and my office have helped hundreds of immigrants who have followed the rules, have done everything right, have been stuck in bureaucracy, gain citizenship, green cards, and work authorization. Right now, the policy that the president put in place allows for those individuals who are coming over the border today to get appointments and be heard prior to the people who have been waiting in line, and that's wrong. I actually have somebody who had work authorization, lost their work authorization because it ended, and now they're saying they have to wait 16 months to get it renewed. So what the policy that the president put out yesterday would put all these individuals ahead of that constituent who has been here working, following the rules, and doing everything right. So it's an unsustainable flow that we have to stop at the border if we are going to address the backlog in the system. Now, the mayor and the governor keep incentivizing people to come to New York. Hochul says one thing on your show yesterday, but quite frankly, she has sent an invitation to people from around the world to come to New York, and they would get free services. Free housing, free education, free college tuition. She even wants Section 8 housing. That was one of the requests she made of the president.
Are you referring to, just for clarity's purposes, are you referring to New York's right to shelter that, you know, the leaders of New York, the mayor and perhaps the governor would say requires that they provide shelter to these migrants?
So it doesn't, actually. The right to shelter decree passed in, it was 1979. It was a court decree that was intended for homeless New Yorkers. It was never intended, as the governor finally alluded to last night, she admitted that never intended for everybody on the planet who would come to New York City. In fact, it's illogical to think that that policy would apply to 8 billion people on the planet should they come to New York City. That is why we're in the situation we're in right now, because the mayor has misinterpreted that right to shelter law and insisted that these individuals had to be housed. Do you know what happened in my district? They took away an assisted living from our senior citizens. They literally kicked out senior citizens in March and then turned around this organization and cut a deal with the city to house migrants there. How is that fair?
I think the mayor would argue that, and I think he did this morning, he argued that he can't just decide to not enforce the right to shelter. It has to go through a legal process. But I do want to ask you, speaking of the mayor here, he has said in the past that he thinks that this issue could destroy New York City without drastic federal intervention. And you saw President Biden was in the city this week. He met with the governor, Governor Hochul, but he didn't meet with Adams. What do you think is going on there? And is that relationship where it needs to be in order to get to a resolution on this problem?
Well, I think it is disappointing that the president came to New York City and didn't even go to see any of these facilities. The Roosevelt Hotel, which the mayor wanted him to go visit, was the site where they've already had dozens of arrests. These individuals have actually committed crime in our city, and that's a problem in itself. But the problem really is that it is unsustainable, and that's why I say the mayor opened this cans of worms. He should have not done this, and he should have allowed groups, outside groups, to sue him if he wanted and then go to court. But what I'll say is this. The reality is that Federal solution is necessary. That's why we passed a border security bill to stem the flow. I am open to working on issues of increasing visas so we can track who's coming in and out of our country. People can come, as my parents did, to this country and have opportunity and pursue a better life. But we need to know who is coming in and out of this country. In a post-9/11 world, of all places, New York should be concerned that there are 1.6 million individuals that have come in the country. We don't know who they are, where they are, or what their intentions are, in addition to the 6 million that have been encountered at the border and have made their way throughout the country, including New York. So I would say to my colleagues, Senator Schumer, work with us. We have a solution that we passed to secure the border. You may want to see some other aspects, work authorization, let's come together. But the Senate has to pass something in order for us to do that and reconcile our differences. I think this is the right opportunity for Republicans and Democrats to come together. But if we don't stem the flow, the system will continue to be inundated, and we will continue going through this every month until we actually stop the flow and deal with the backlog that we have currently.
It'll be interesting to see if there's any movement on this, because I think both parties now agree it's at crisis levels all over the country, not just at the border. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.